how can you leverage your skills to become a digital nomad in 2023? It's time for another Digital Nomad update. And this time around, I feel like I have to clue you in on how you can do the same. I've taken you on my journey of how I've become a digital nomad. And I'm about 4 months into the journey now. I did a 3-month stint in Bali and I'm just finishing my first month in Sofia. So in that time, I've learned a thing or two, especially about how you can leverage your business so that you can become a digital nomad. The first tip I have for you is to figure out balance. If you're wanting to become a digital nomad, you need to be able to enjoy the places you're going as much as you need to be making money to be able to go there. So how am I balancing content creation, business, and still enjoying travel? If you've been following me along on Instagram, you'll know by now that things have been a bit manic over the last couple of weeks. From arriving in Sofia to then launching a course the following week, keeping you all up to date on my YouTube channel, and still posting on my social media and my clients' social media accounts. But at the minute, I feel like things are balancing so much better than they have in the past. So how do I keep all these plates spinning? How do I keep everything running? Let's start with content. If you're a business owner that is trying to transition online, I highly recommend that you use content creation as a method of generating new clients. So from social media to even YouTube videos like this one, having content to bring people into wanting to work with you is going to be something that's really beneficial. It also means it takes some of the onus off of the sales side of your business. You can just focus on people coming to you. So how do you make content quick? Firstly, stop trying to create and start documenting. This has made the biggest difference for staying on track for me and making it easier. Posting on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn felt like a full-time job before I even considered the work that we were doing for our clients. Especially when pretty much all I made was talking head videos like this one, where I spoke to the camera and gave some advice. Switching all of these platforms to include at least some elements of a vlog style content creation, where I'm showing little bits and pieces of my life along with the really great advice that I'm giving, if I do say so myself, has made it so much easier because I'm now just showing parts of my day and it becomes a lot easier to film. I can pretty much turn the camera on at any given point and film that. It's meant that my video creation time's taken a lot less, so my scope for being able to deliver on work has become a lot bigger. I've also really let go and been a lot more casual about my setup. It used to look like a DSLR, a Rode mic, and a tripod. And right now I'm filming you on my iPhone that's propped up against my makeup bag. And this is my typical setup, at least for the most part. The second way I keep content easy to create is by letting my tolerance for trash get lower. So I attend a weekly video editing club with Freelance Friday group. It's really great, it keeps me on track, it makes sure that I'm always working on and editing something. And during this group, we've spent some time joking about this concept of your tolerating of trash. It's by no means a bad thing. I'm not saying that my content is trash. What I'm saying is my standards aren't so high. I don't expect my audio to be Rode mic level quality, and I don't expect my editing to be a professional editor level when that's not my knowledge. And realistically, the people on the other side want to hear what I have to say, and that's the priority compared to making really flash graphics and things popping up on the screen all the time. Sometimes it's okay to slap a bit of B-roll with text over it and use that as your TikTok post. Or for YouTube, sometimes it's okay to quite simply cut out the bad takes and leave it at that. You can make things more simple, you can tolerate some trash, and you don't have to make your efforts match that of someone who has a full media team. Lastly, a way to make your content quick and easy is to reuse and repurpose everything. If I post something, it is getting repackaged in some way, shape or form and going on different platforms. YouTube videos get turned into shorts. I take my favorite clips and turn them into small little vertical videos. They also turn into in case you missed it style posts that are pushing traffic back to the original YouTube. They get turned into carousels that break down the top pieces of advice in that video. They can even get turned into blogs. So one piece of content becomes the basis of a lot more. So how do you balance business? This is where it gets really important. As a digital nomad, you have to have a reliable source of income so that you don't end up stranded in some random country along a different part of the world. My first tip is to build for the long term. I was running my business full-time from January 2021 to September 2022 before I left on my first digital nomad trip. I made sure the income was consistent and I knew that I was going to be able to draw a salary from there. But I'm also thinking long term now, so I'm considering what I need 3-4 years from now. I'm building passive and semi-passive income streams. So if it feels crazy and busy now, as I continue to grow my network, my audience, it might not feel so crazy and so busy in the future. This looks like the course that I mentioned earlier, course offerings, more coaching programs that I haven't told you about just yet, things that allow me to serve more people with less time output. Number 2, I finally upped my rates. This is a really hard thing for me, and I'm going to be open and honest. The difficulty is I want to be affordable, I want to help people. But to be a digital nomad, part of the joy is being able to explore the place where you're going. It's being able to have flexibility to see and enjoy your locations when you travel. And if you book yourself full of really cheap clients, that's not going to be possible because you're going to be working 24/7 and be locked to your desk. So I needed to factor that in. And maybe you do too. If you're a digital nomad and you're struggling to make enough income for just you to live off of, working online can be a really low cost method of running a business. You don't have a lot of overheads like offices, and most of the really popular digital nomad locations are also very cheap. So you definitely should consider upping your rates if you're struggling to draw an income for yourself within your business. And finally, I firmed up. I can be a little bit lax and sometimes do work outside of scope, sometimes do favors and want to help my clients because for most of them, I consider them friends as well as kind of work relationships, and I want to help them and their business succeed. But there are a few clients that we were working with that weren't willing to do anything on their end. It meant that we weren't able to deliver the way that we usually are, and it ended up with them being unhappy with our work, but us being really unable to resolve it. I don't say this lightly because I often put myself at fault, but it truly was a case that they weren't willing to give us what we needed. Unfortunately, we aren't able to do everything. We do need insight from business owners on what the packages are, as well as what's happening in the office, images, videos, all those sorts of things to be able to do a good job. As much as we can act as a bit of an external marketing department, there's things that we need from the other departments, so to speak. With that, we offboarded a couple of people that weren't a good match, and it freed up so much time. It meant we could focus on higher paying clients who were happy and had better results and were willing to work with us. If you've been running an online business for a while, you may very well have picked up some clients that you knew there were red flags, but you still missed it. It might be time to consider offboarding some people to allow for more flexibility in your business and make travel easier. I talked about spinning plates earlier, and as much as I love spinning plates and keeping busy and having lots of different elements to what I do, there is a limit. There is only so many things you can keep up in the air before you go too far. Sorry about that. I had a quick client call that I had to hop into. So if the setup looks different at all, if you've moved, that's why. The thing that you're probably wondering the most about if you want to become a digital nomad is how do you fit travel into the mix of all of this? How can you become your own content creator to find new leads, run a business, and travel all at once? The first thing I think is the attitude. You have to set yourself up properly for success. And for me, I used to look at travel and really kind of struggle with a little bit of overwhelm, a little bit of stress of traveling. Like, I'm going to be late for my flight. What if I forget my passport? And I would make it more stressful than it needed to be just from my own worry and anxiety. But to be flexible with travel, especially if you're not going to be a slow traveler like I am, if you're doing every 2 weeks, if you're going to be a quick nomad and you want to go through and see everywhere as soon as possible, you can't make travel, you can't make getting on a plane become this big disruptor to your day, to your week. My attitude now is very much like, if I forget something, oh well, we can buy it at the next place. If we're at an airport and we've got no Wi-Fi, so I can't get my work done, cool, I'll start planning in my notebook. Beforehand, these would be things that would stress me out, and it meant that it was harder to fit work in on those days when I was actively traveling. I sort of mentioned my second tip, the second way I can fit it all in is by being a slow traveler. By visiting any place for a longer period of time, by being with visa allowing at a particular place for a month, 6 weeks, it means the pressure is kind of taken off of being able to see everything all at once. If I was only in Sofia for a week, I would be rushing around this city, walking everywhere, trying to see every museum, every sightseeing location, because I would want to get it all done. Whereas knowing that I'm here for a month, It gives me a little bit more flexibility to do it as I go, to be like, oh, I actually don't have that much work to do today. I'm going to use today as the day that I disappear, or using my weekends. This allows me to have really true integration and balance between the business side, content creation side, and the fun travel, because I don't have to sacrifice one or the other. I have enough time in each location where I can reasonably do both. The last tip I have about how to balance this all is to be way more flexible with your work schedule and even your work location. When I'm traveling, I'm much more likely to work split days, kind of start off really early in the morning when I first wake up and spin back around to some of my other work later in the day. So I get a couple of hours for fun and exploring through the middle of the day. I'll also be much more likely to take work on the go. It's pretty easy for me to pack my work setup. I actually posted a Instagram story about my travel-friendly work setup, which is actually an iPad, not my laptop. It's so much lighter to take around than carrying my full laptop. So being able to just chuck an iPad, a little keyboard, and a mouse in my bag that weighs barely anything at all means that I can drop in and out of work when we stop for a break having a coffee. Like I said, focusing on integrating that work into my travel. I'm by no means an expert on balance, and sometimes I will fall foul to doing too much in one direction. But as a location independent business owner, I almost don't need to have the same rules and regulations that people who work for themselves and live in the UK with children and other responsibilities have to consider. I can let my day stretch out to 8 p.m. for work if I need to. And I found ways to be productive without necessarily having a routine. You might have noticed that I've mentioned work-life integration a couple of times instead of work-life balance. I heard a brilliant insight and a really great take on work-life balance at one of my recent monthly meetup events. It's a networking event I run for coaches and online business owners. If anyone wants to come, I do have one next Friday, as of when this is being posted, at 9 a.m. UK time. So I'll pop the link in the bio if you do want to come along. But ultimately, our conversation focused around how work-life balance was actually bullshit. And we should instead focus on work-life integration by taking away those typical work-life balance rules and just doing what feels right for you, what works for you, and giving yourself permission to do that, knowing that in a week or two, what feels right and what works could change. It becomes a lot easier to enjoy both work and life without having to fight for both to try and find this seemingly perfect balance of the scales. This sums up exactly how I feel about my own work-life balance journey and created a whole different perspective on what I could do, what I could achieve while I'm still spinning these three plates of content creation, business, and travel. But I do think that this is something that is down to personal preference. So I would love to hear your insight on any tips you have around how you balance it all as a digital nomad in the comments below. I'm also after your insight. If you want more tips on how to become a digital nomad, talking about the actual practicalities of building an online business, dealing with clients and how to handle them knowing that you're in a different location every time you speak, but having faith that your delivery is going to be strong, I'm so happy to dive into that world as well.